Surrounded by Idiots. Yellow Edition. Now, Surrounded by Idiots, if you haven't watched the other videos already, it's a book written by Thomas ERIKSON, and it's based on the DISC system. And today we're going to go ahead and talk about, well, fundamentally, one of the 4 types of human behavior, the yellows. And of course, the yellows at the back of the book are called social and optimistic. And let's just see how well they are at it. First off, what is a yellow? Now, on the first spectrum, if you just look on the spectrum itself, you might see them as extroverts. They're active, they're implementers, and also they're relationship-oriented too. The most extreme yellows are, of course, extroverts. They like talking a lot, and they're also pretty relationship-oriented as well. They would like to go ahead into relationships, and they'd rather preserve relationships. But sometimes their talking a little too much actually does the opposite effect of what they have intended to do. Now, yellows actually have and now if you're a pure yellow, you have rapid reactions. You also have maximum effort to actually go ahead and involve yourself in some activities too. You have minimal interest in routines. You hate doing the same things over and over again, like drawing a stick figure every morning, those kind of things. And then you're always in the future time frame. You imagine the future. However, that's the problem. You only think of the future. And you also have some impulsive actions, and you have a tendency to actually reject isolation. You like people. You're very social. On the spectrum here too, yellows are very talkative. They're enthusiastic, they're persuasive, and they're creative. The good thing about them is that they're always pretty optimistic. Even if it's a rainy day, they're all going like, hey, it's gonna get sunny soon anyway. They're very social, they're spontaneous, and because they're also talkative, they're pretty expressive too. A bunch of speeches, a lot of talkers, a lot of the people who are in like debates such as MUN, Model United Nations, those people, those are the ones who win the prizes, are usually the yellows. They're charming, they're full of vitality, and however, they're self-centered. They're the center of the universe. They're also childish in that way too. They're very sensitive. However, if the situation needs it, they're very capable of adapting towards other things too, as long as they need to. If they don't need to, if it just makes it easier, but it's not necessary, well, they probably won't do it. They're very inspiring, and they need attention. They always need attention. That's how you go ahead and give them these good things too. They're flexible, they're open, and yeah, that's pretty much all you can go ahead and talk about here too. With that, you have way much more to talk about the yellows already. The yellows will probably be in the popular group. They're the ones who are in the popular kids. They're the ones who like to talk a lot. They're the ones who love stories. And nowadays, I've actually seen more yellows in my social circles because everyone likes talking, but they hate doing things. They just open their mouths and their hands do nothing. Then again, we do things and then we talk about them. You always need a good story too. A bunch of YouTubers must be yellows too because, well, they have to talk a lot. That's their job really. Otherwise, why would they be here? And if they're introverted, well then, hiding behind the screen would also be nice too. Alright, now our notes. Now, the yellows themselves are the most interesting people I've actually ever seen in my life. At least they're the ones who are the most talkative to. They actually kind of remind me of Pac-Man, to be honest, because the Pac-Man likes eating stuff, and the yellows are the ones who like eating stuff. They like eating up all the airtime. They talk so much, which is for some reason why some of my teachers go ahead and call some of us windbags, calling from experience myself too. These yellows, according to the book, are also described as, well, shall we put this in a good way? You are recognized as a person whose head is always in the clouds. You're always dreaming, and you have to go ahead and giving back to reality again. You see his dreams, but they're unrealistic, like saying, I want to be Superman. You go ahead and you really, really actually have to go ahead and tell him that, hey, you can't be Superman right now, too. Look, you're not going to be Superman. With all this, yellows are awesome in their own ways, too. They're talkative, and they're the kind of people who probably like to say, like, hey, that sounds fun. Let me do it. Me. And it's always me. If they see someone who actually went ahead and did this, like there's this yellow who's seen this let's say red who just said something. The red talked about something demandingly, however it came out all crooked and wrong. Well, then the yellow will probably go ahead and say, hey, yes, sir, I agree. I agree with this and this and this and this and this. He says the same thing, but he just says it again because he knows that he can say better and he wants everyone else to know. He wants the red to know that he can say all this better too. And with that, you can go ahead and figure out that the yellows are the awesome kids, and they're the ones who'd rather do anything to go ahead just for their own center of attention. The yellows would also like to have the most speaking time too. If there's a conversation and you have at least one yellow in it and everyone else is a different color, well, like every time someone tries to say a little color, like some random kind of personality goes ahead and wants to go ahead and say something, well, the yellow would say, answer that question, and immediately before anyone says anything like this, fictional people who goes ahead and are greatest at this, well, I think young Sheldon, because he's never optimistic, sure, but however, he is really good at interrupting and trying to interrupt and everything and put himself in the center of attention. Very yellowy of him. Yellows themselves are very positive too. It's very hard to go ahead and put them down. If you criticize them, yes, that will put them in a bad mood. But however, a few hours later, they will be back to their own positive, great moods, and probably they're all like, it doesn't matter, man, it's okay, let's just brush it off and forget it even happened. And they're also more the kind of people who think that more the merrier. Like, people with lots of yellow in their behavior are actually focused on creating relationships. They go ahead and they're outgoing and they can become very persuasive too. They're enthusiastic, they're excited, they're happy, and they talk about their lives as if it's great. However, they're not shy, and they'll definitely talk to anyone you meet as soon as possible. Like make comments about anything, like, what a beautiful tree out there, what a beautiful forest out there, even though everything else is actually made of ashes. Let's just say he lives in like a post-apocalyptic world. And who gets the most holiday cards? Well, the yellows do. Who gets the most gifts? Well, the yellows do. Who gets the most contacts in their cell phone? The yellow. Who gets the most LinkedIn contacts? The yellows. You're getting the idea. The yellows are the most popular kids. They're the ones who want to go ahead and create relationships. Who are the ones who really like creating competitions? Yellows. Also, technically, reds will try to win any competition. Alright, but who wants to go ahead and organizes the most events? The yellows. Who wants to go ahead and connect with everyone and sends literally, sometimes even over spams everyone with messages asking what they're doing? The yellows. Even so, it could be annoying and probably put them in the spam mail. And with that, you could probably find what yellows kind of are like. Yellows see themselves as enthusiastic. They're charming, they're inspiring, they're optimistic, they're outgoing, they're very flexible, they're open, they're creative, and there are lots of other things to really do. Their head is a bunch of gears that go ahead and start working. However, these gears, unfortunately, aren't exactly linked to the gears that make them do stuff. They're also kind of procrastinators, shall we say. Yellows can be procrastinators too. They're mega procrastinators. A lot of people I've seen are procrastinators, and they're pretty yellow too. They're very optimistic, which can sometimes be a little terrible. They always try to see the good in someone else, which kind of reminds me of Paddington. And they're the ones who'd rather try some new things. They're like the people who'd say, what happens if I flip myself upside down? Oh. What happens if I do this? Now, you won't find anyone more resourceful than yellows, too. The yellows are the ones who are the most resourceful and probably have the most willpower themselves. It's pretty hard to see a yellow without any willpower at all, too. Now, yellows have this unique ability to go ahead and twist and turn things, so they'll be like, hey, look at this little cube, this Rubik's Cube. And they're all like, alright, try to solve it. He tries to solve it, and a few hours later, after a bunch of tries, he goes ahead and somehow solves it. And that's pretty much how he does things too. The yellow is the one who does the most work. Now, there are a few reasons for all these creativities. It's easy for yellows to actually go ahead and sync in images. If you just say bottle, he immediately thinks bottle. However, you go ahead and you look at something and you think of something too. Now, if you want to go ahead, let's just say that there's this yellow who wants to go ahead and add something to this table. Then he'll probably see a little kind of TV. However, instead of just seeing the outlines though, he'll go ahead and see the whole thing. He'll imagine the whole little event as if it's right there and probably add some extra details to it to just go ahead and make sure it actually works. The knobs and everything. Unfortunately, other colors, such as reds, are pretty bad at that once they go ahead and... Why is it not working? Go ahead and, well, sync TV. They may just see the outline, but that's a pretty big maybe. Otherwise, they imagine the words TV there, and then they immediately go ahead and buy a TV. Once that's done, they forget they bought a TV. And then when the TV arrives, they remember they bought a TV. That's literally how everyone else does it too. However, unfortunately, the Reds upper part, the good thing about the Reds is that they actually go ahead and do the thing. The Yellow, however, just thinks about it, and is excited about everything about it. He talks about how excited he is to get like a TV or something, but then he just never gets a TV unless someone else does it for him. But then again, he's never excited for one. He's excited for it, alright, but he never actually thinks of doing it. He thinks of doing it, but he never actually does it. They're the ones who are very persuasive to it. And also, they're usually the people who go ahead and probably be your salespeople too. They're probably the people who go ahead and give you all that small chat and say, oh, well, here's like, and tries to say a lot of things that inspires a person. And then with that, he goes ahead and sells that person a little something. Now, that's the Yellows. And there are a few things that go ahead and actually makes them this way too. Now, a lot of Yellows, of course, no one's perfect, so no one is perfect. So there are a bunch of faults with Yellows as well too. No one is without their faults. Now, the Yellows, now you can go ahead and start adapting towards a Yellow behavior by going ahead, like, what a Yellow expects of you. Now, a Yellow expects of you of being like, isn't it nice that, like, let's just say that he says, isn't it nice that we're all here together? He's always in a pleasant and cozy atmosphere. He goes ahead and here, and he wants to go ahead and give you some tips. And not some tips. He wants to go ahead and give you some stories too. And let him talk. Listen to his crazy jokes and everything, and he'll probably be happy too. Listen to everything that he's probably got to say. All those crazy jokes that not even you probably understand too. And with all this, you can go ahead and do things too. I asked, like, another part that I see in the book is I asked someone to fix that tiny detail. I can't remember who though. They're pretty vague too. They're pretty bad at memorizing things, at least memorizing details. I hate memorizing dates, so I don't even bother memorizing important dates unless those dates somehow stick to my mind and I can't take them out. Keeping a Yellow's interest is pretty much not the easiest. Like, you say something, and if they're not interested, well, they'll probably just go into 1 year and goes throughout the other year too. With all that, that's probably a very hard time to go ahead and even get a Yellow's attention, to keep a Yellow's attention. A foolproof method to put a Yellow to sleep quickly and efficiently is actually to go ahead and you bring up a lot of details. Say, it is happened on 1600 CE, the 17th century. His name was Edmund II or something like that. And with that, the Yellow will probably go ahead and it's already shut down his ears, like, powering down. And then with that, he's probably just gonna go to sleep. Lol. That's how you go ahead and adapt to Yellow behavior too. I'm not gonna talk more about adapting to Yellow's behavior because then, well, what's the point of reading the book? Why is the book here then? And the other things that probably gonna happen is a few more things to do. You have to learn how to, you can just go ahead and deliver bad news too. You can go ahead and there are a few ways you can go ahead and give Yellows feedback if you actually have some patience, that is. Now, here's what the book means. Now, Yellows are great at many things too, and among their great attributes is that they love to change things around. They're great with change. They like moving around. They like, maybe if they have the chance to move to a new home, that's probably better than the one they already have. Well, they'll do it as long as they can afford it, that is. Negative feedback is a great way to go ahead and find out your high performance level, but that isn't actually how Yellows work. In fact, Yellows don't work at all. If they hear any negative criticism, they go ahead and immediately delete it from their brain. It's called selective memory, and I have it too, unfortunately. When it comes to, like, Yellows are certainly in favor of it, but only if they came up with the ideas themselves. If they came up with the idea of moving, well, they'll do it. But if someone came up with the idea of them moving, like another certain Yellow, for example, well, then they definitely won't do it at all. That's the problem with these Yellows. That's the problem with the Yellows, unfortunately. Now, as long as you have to make sure that they receive the criticism well enough. Like, you go ahead and go ahead and make him in a good mood. Give him a good mood, and then let him dominate throughout everyone. And then just go ahead and talk to him about it too. Make an agenda, and then go ahead and follow it. And then you also have to give very concrete examples. Also, don't do too many details, though. Now, always remember that some of the ideas that he's not interested in will go through 1 year and out in the other. So make sure that he's pretty interested and make him focused. Now, you have to go ahead and also prepare yourself for a strong defense mechanism because, well, Yellows are pretty defensive. If they hear anything that's attacking them, they'll try to go ahead and make a shield that goes ahead and rebounds it back. That's their mouth. They talk so much that they probably know more vocabulary than everyone else. you have to also ask the person to repeat everything you've said. Yeah, so I said this, I said blah, 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 and then with that, you go ahead and the yellow says okay, but then you have to be like, all right, repeat after me, and he's like, of course that means the yellow did not listen. And then with that, you have to say it again and make sure that he repeats it, because then he'll be in big embarrassment. Because who likes a person who never listens to anyone else? No, definitely not me. And that's pretty much how you can go ahead and give feedbacks to yellows. Next thing that we kind of have to talk about, so, is how you have to get yellows stressed out, and then how you can go ahead and get them unstressed in the future. Now, how you go ahead and stress out a yellow is pretty easy. You have to go ahead and make him look invisible. Now, a yellow loves being in the center of attention, and if they're not in the center of attention, they're practically invisible. Disregard him no matter what. Disregard him, and he's gonna get stressed out. He's gonna get super angry, and then if he gets super angry, well, just don't blame it on him though. It's kind of your fault too. So yeah, that's your problem. The other things that happen here, it's just that the yellows are going to get stressed out in these kind of situations because they love talking. They're the Pac-Mans of talking. However, if you go ahead and ignore them, that's where the big things are too. You have to go ahead and start becoming skeptical too. If he has something to say, he says it, and then he wants all of us to agree. But how to stress him out? You go ahead and you say, is it like this part true, is this part true? That's gonna make him mad as hell again too. And then with that, you go ahead and stress them out again. And a few more things to really talk about too. Their structure, that work. Go ahead, isolate him from the group, give him a lot of details too. Make sure that it's inappropriate to joke at work. Make clear that it's inappropriate to joke at work. If he's always joking at work, well then he's like joking around in humor. Seriously, sure, you can joke around once in a while, but however, these yellows are pretty annoying too because they joke all the time. They don't know the difference between play and work. Sounds familiar, doesn't it, to me? Yeah. And how can you help him cope with his stress? Here are a few things to go ahead and do. Let him take out his anger. Like, what do they do, actually? Before we even talk about that, what do they do when they're stressed out? They go ahead and give themselves unrealistic options. They're going, I'm going to make a supercomputer in 1 second. Those kinds of things. Well, yeah, that's literally not going to happen. They're probably not going to make those unrealistic ideas. But however, they will make unrealistic options for them. And with that, you have to go ahead and somehow help them manage with their stress. For example, let this yellow organize a party or something. Let the yellow organize a party, and then if he somehow manages to organize that party, let him invite anyone who comes, and if you're included, definitely come over, even if you're the only one there. He can sink deep inside his misery for so long, but he can't do that so much. Good thing about their optimism is that makes them, they can't get mad for too long though. Their anger just disappears. Their joys. And when things are at the worst, they just go ahead and suggest you go to, like, I don't know, a pub, a party, or something something social, something that can relieve him from his stuff. You have to make sure that he does something, but make sure that it's fun. And that's how you go ahead and deal with yellows. And that is Surrounded by Idiots. Yellow edition. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode so much. I spent a good 20 minutes working on this, and at least on the filming part too. I spent another 4 hours reading the book too and replanning everything too. So I hope you guys actually did enjoy my hard work, and I hope to see you guys soon. And so until then, now, peace. Bye bye. Da 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 da